All right. Just so you all know, we are doing this without a script. I'm talking to you guys out there who might be part of the internet, YouTube, looking at all the content creation going on. You cannot get away from it unless you're living under a rock. What am I talking about? I'm talking about the World of Warcraft add-on apocalypse. You will see it, you will hear it. You might even have some opinions of your own where you're talking about it with your friends on Discord. And that, to me, my friends, is a discussion that we all should be having. But not to be a nihilist or not to be fear-mongering, I believe Blizzard, in the end, will listen to the community and get us to where we need to be exactly. Now, granted, is that going to be 3 months after the expansion comes out and they've instituted these add-ons that they have planned to replace the add-ons that we had through Weak Auras, through Curse Forge? If you listened to my previous video, you would have known that we were talking with you guys about Mystical OS, who is the creator of Deadly Boss Mods, also known as DBM. And Big Wigs, Little Wigs as well are going to still try and have some kind of workaround or try and work with Blizzard to try and get these add-ons all instituted for us as we try to continue playing our Mythic Plus and our raids. Now, here is one of the examples that we have for this week's alpha, and this is referring to the nameplates. One of the things that I hold near and dear because I believe Plater is really a place that has a great interactive way that we respond to the different mobs that we encounter during our dungeons. So I have a video here by Shaw. Let's give it a listen and see what he has to talk about, because in the end, if you're a veteran or a loyalist to World of Warcraft, this could be one of the things that makes you put this game behind you, sell your account, and walk away. Let's get into it.
I've recorded this video like 5 times already, so I'm going to hopefully make this a little bit more constructive than my previous recordings, and a little bit shorter, because I went on a like 30-minute rant about how terrible the nameplates are, how spread out these are. I don't have my hands on the keyboard, and they're just like shifting all over the place like crazy. This is terrible. But yeah, in this video, we're going to talk about nameplates, the things that I like, the things that I don't like, and the things that I think Blizzard can improve on. Now, my general take on the whole add-on restriction controversy is I think Blizzard's ripping off the Band-Aid a little too quickly. I think these are systems that they can build in their base game as an option, and they should be using Weak Auras and these other add-ons as competitors to improve the functionality of their base UI. And
that's one of the things that Blizzard said when they first were talking with people like, Dratnos or Max and Preach, that their whole intention was to release these add-ons with still having something like He Killy, DBM, Big Wigs still available to us so that they could work towards perfecting their institution of their like their cooldown manager. You guys, as well as I, heard it that it was just not in a state that anybody, because it didn't have any customization and nothing of the sort. Now, one of the things that we also have heard is that if they don't remove all of these add-ons, then we're going to continue to use those without testing and giving Blizzard back the feedback that they need to make it better.
And eventually pull back Weak Auras, pull back these kind of combat add-ons later in the expansion or in the Last Titan or whenever. So with that out of the way, let's dive into nameplates. This is currently the week 2 of alpha, so phase 2, whatever you want to call it. And there's obviously going to probably still be changes going forward. So hopefully this video gets outdated pretty quickly with some of the changes that myself and other people have raised and kind of called for Blizzard to implement. So starting off, the nameplate customization options can be accessed via the options in-game option menu by clicking this little nameplate under gameplay. Some of these options have been here before in the base game that you can currently access, but a lot of the stuff that you're able to kind of customize yourself is going to be down below underneath this preview section. Now, there's things like being able to scale up the nameplates and down. You can also change the debuff and buff scale. This applies to actually everything. And what I say by everything is there have been additions to show shared CC as well as mob buffs, which I think is really good. I think the mob buffs and share CC are two of the options in here that I really like. I'll showcase this in just a second, but basically what I don't like about this is it's all tied to this scale. So if I jack this all the way up, you're now going to see that these things are massive. But maybe I don't want the buffs on the target because I don't care about them as much as a brewmaster specifically. So I want them to be smaller, but I want maybe the share CC and the mob buffs to be nice and large. There's no current option to scale them independently of each other, which I think is a change that Blizzard could add and I would like them to see for a slightly better customizable option for players. One other thing that I like that they added is this cast bar information. You can select to see the spell name, the spell icon, the spell target, highlight important casts, and most importantly, highlight when targeted by enemy.
There you go. That is something that Plater does have. So that is good to see that they're thinking about that and will help us determine on when to kick what spell based on the importance of that spell. And if it's going to be hitting you, you might want to get on that so you can avoid the damage or know to pop a defensive in its wake. So I like that idea.
So when you go into a poll and there's like, let's say 3 casters, 4 melee mobs hitting your tank, and all of a sudden 3 of the nameplates or 2 of the nameplates turn red, you know, like, oh shit, these are targeting me. Maybe I should kick. Maybe I should use a form of CC. I can maybe pop invisibility or vanish or whatever it is to stop these casts.
Exactly.
This is a really good feature that I like that Blizzard added. But outside of that, as well as the shared CC, most of the other things for this are pretty bad or very like elementary. And I think there's several steps for improvement. So I want to go into a dungeon and show you guys how this is going to interact because I don't think the training dummies will actually do it justice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to queue up for Den of Nalarok in follower dungeons. And I'm just going to showcase some of these things. Now, this is actually a really good dungeon. I'm going to be doing videos about this in the future, talking about the mechanics and the general vibe of it. But when you do enter the dungeon, there's a little bit of RP. I hope they don't have this in the actual dungeon. If it becomes like when it's eventually Mythic Plus, you got to like click on this little campfire and wait for this ritual to start. It's not too long, but basically you're going to enter a dream state of the dungeon, which I think is cool. This dungeon art-wise is fantastic. This is a small side tangent while we load. So here we are in a dungeon. There are going to be nameplates all over the place. Now you have the option to actually remove, or I guess disable these nameplates if you don't want to see them. So like you can come in here, go to nameplates, always show enemies. This will only show units once you're in combat with them. I think this is generally bad. Knowing where mobs are located is generally going to be better for the average player.
Shit, you got people that know and see the mobs already and still body pull. Oh my goodness. You know, you've seen it. Azeroth 1 always covers these things on his worst dungeons. And that's where he gets a lot of his content. A lot of people body pulling. So yeah, if it's gonna help them to see the action bowers and not pull any of the extra shit, more power to them. I don't know why you would run without any nameplates to begin with.
Then not knowing where enemies are, this is what often leads to like people body pulling, is because they're not aware of where mobs are located, and often having the nameplates being shown, really good. So you can choose to like enable the minor nameplates, the minor enemies as well as the minions. So like things like pets, guardians, and totems. You can also enable player nameplates. Now this doesn't look great, but it could be good information for a healing player or a healer. And what's also nice is if you do want them enabled, but you don't want them as egregious as they currently are, you can actually simplify it. And when you simplify friendly players, or I guess in this case they're NPCs, it's going to make them really, really small. So you can actually keep an eye on your players, see where they're located, while not having to like individually target them. So this is actually not a terrible feature either. I just don't think I will personally use it, but I'm sure some healers or some players will actually like seeing this. Maybe a raid lead who wants to keep an eye on where players are located. But you can simply just have it not show friendly nameplates and you're going to be fine. Now, the big rant I'm going to probably go on is when I get to stacking nameplates, which I'll talk about in a second. But let's kind of talk about some of these other options here. So, for example, let's actually walk down this way, because there's some mobs down here that I think are going to be pretty good. Oh, first things first. I don't care for this to show. I don't care to show all of these values. So currently what's being shown is health percent, health value, and rarity icon. I'm going to disable rarity icon and health value because I just care more about the percent of the mob. Now, some people will probably play with health value because as like an arcane mage, you know that your CD, let's just say, does 600,000 damage. So you don't want to send it on a mob that has like less than 600,000 health. Of course, the NPCs just fucking pulled this random guy. So I'm going to come over here and start blasting. One other small tangent I have is the current names on these mobs. So here's Spirit Paw Gatherer. This is too much. I don't care about this word Spirit Paw. I just need to know if it's a gatherer or if it's a tender. Tenders heal, gatherers do melee stuff. There's also, I think, some other stuff. But like this thing here, I don't care about keen-eyed. This is like an adjective that doesn't mean anything to me. I just want to know it's a screecher. Okay, so it's...
That's one of the things I was talking about in the other video. You know, you walk onto a Walsh construction site. They're a very big construction company in the Midwest. And you walk on the construction site and you could see all the workers there. I was going to call them players. You see all the workers there and you see one guy that has a clipboard. You have another guy that's working the Bobcat or heavy machinery. You have another guy that's carrying a roll of wire and he's got clippers going on. You know it's Walsh construction electrician, Walsh construction operator, Walsh construction supervisor. Just get the Walsh construction out. You're in the dungeon. You're on the construction site. You just need to know the title of the person doing the job. Where's the supervisor? I don't go up to him and say, hey, where's the Walsh construction supervisor? I mean, that's just dumb. You know, maybe soon enough, we'll have to just start being like the Asian representation of the game and start reading from right to left or reading from right to left. So you just screech, tender, gatherer, you know, you're going to have to train your brain another thing to do.
Going to do AoE damage. I would like to see Blizzard add an option to disable these kind of front, what they call the first name of the mob, or just show last.
And if you watch the last video, they're not. They're doubling down on that. They're going to keep that in the game. My wife is over there coughing, everybody, if you don't hear. She's dying.
Last name or simplified names. I wouldn't even mind a whitelist where I have to go in and like whitelist or blacklist certain words. So I can come in here, be like, okay, I don't care I want to blacklist the word Spirit Paw from the nameplate. I think that would go a long way in adding more customability. Is that even a customization? To the nameplates.
That's totally
so that's
me.
One thing that kind of
totally me. I mess up the words all the time, chat.
Is frustrating me about these nameplates actually at the moment. Also, what happened to, why is it not showing? So like this is another kind of dumb option. Like it's not showing the enemy names unless I enable these names, which I don't want to do because I don't care to see NPC names. I guess I could just like, can I just do hostile? Why does it have to show quest NPCs? Oh, well.
I don't understand.
But now,
that.
as you can see, without targeting
understand.
them, I can't see, I see Spirit Paw. That's it. That's annoying to me.
Yeah.
Anyways, I don't want to rant too much about this because I'm about to go on a crazy rant here in a second. So let's come down here and talk about kind of the applied buffs that mobs can get. So I'll clear some of these mobs out. But like when they are overlapping, for example, like it's kind of hard to click on what I want to be targeting. Let's get a paralysis on this guy over here. Then we'll get a kick, come back. Also, there's these cool flying fish in this dungeon. This is so sick. They're just like hanging out. It's like a dream state. I think this dungeon's so cool. This is probably my favorite dungeon up to this point that I've tested. Okay, so these territorial matriarch bears, again, why do I need to, I don't care about the territorial part. I just want to see matriarch. But if I pull this guy, what's going to happen is hopefully if my group doesn't just blow him up immediately, he's, well, okay, maybe we blow him up too quick. Disable them. Maybe I'll pull this pack of 2. So they gain a buff called demoralizing. Now you can see that they're buffed. Obviously the hunter and druid just sued them, which is cool, but it'll show like the active buffs that the bears have on them. So I think that's like a fine feature. I would just like to have like customizations where it's like, well, if you can remove it and have the ability to, it should maybe glow.
Yeah, you see that right there? That is a very nice touch. You know, you see them grow. So if you've been playing the game long enough, you know they'll grow, kind of like in Halls of Atonement right now, where you'll see the bears get all fucking beefy and red, and you know you better sue them for the tank. But it would be nice, since they're doing the add-on changes, for the plater to have a little bit of a green outline. I also like, I would like to put in the suggestion box more clarity for what I as a player am targeting. One of the things that I did like about Plater is it would change the texture, color, add arrows. This is your target. That white line that gets brighter, that's all you get when you're using the Blizzard UI nameplates. It's in the game right now. So it's very, I have a hard time trying to tell sometimes what I am targeting. Not only that, but I was just doing a Eco Aldani today, and you know the tank will go in there and he'll make this big major pull at the beginning of the dungeon, and there could be like 20 mobs in there. It's supposed to be big do some damage, do some kicks, and you could get up to like 20 million. But the way that it has it, I have it with stacking nameplates, and they're not very like I go to hit tab for something that's closest to me that I see has a kick going on, or at least I think it's near me, because it seems to be like the second thing above the main one that I'm supposed to be on, and it's not. It turns out it's like over there somewhere, and I, as a rep pally, I have to literally be on top of the mob to interrupt. It's not something like I could throw a shield at because I don't have one. I'm playing a ret. I think that is something that needs to be addressed, and I believe, I want to believe they'll get on top of that with the more information they get through the alpha gameplay.
Or I would at least like to be able to move it off of the nameplate a little bit, or scale it independently of the buffs and debuffs. I've done this video too many times. I've already recorded this video so many times. I don't remember if I've ranted about that yet, but basically everything is tied together when you're editing the nameplates to this buff and debuff scale. And so my buffs and debuffs will be really small.
So one thing they could add there is just one for buff and then one for debuff. How hard would it be for them to add that? You know, maybe they'll take the note from the suggestion box. I don't know.
But now so will the kind of buff icon on the mob or the shared CC. So independently being able to edit those would actually go a long way, I think, for those kind of options. Because personally speaking, not the fact that my shit's bugged and it's actually not showing my debuffs at all. It's not showing Breath of Fire. It's not showing Keg Smash. It's not showing Mystic Touch. Again, something else that I would like to whitelist or blacklist, but I think that's probably a big ask for Blizzard. I would just, so for what I'm trying to say is, for me, I don't care about my debuffs on most targets, but I do care about CC'd, the shared CC and the mob. So again, independently scaling would be really, really nice. The aggro display is terrible, by the way. So like if I run over here and I like go to pull this pack, if my group rips, you're going to see that they're going to flash really quickly, but now I can't tell what has threat on who.
I think they'll fix that. I think they'll fix that because you know it, I know it, everybody knows it. We've all pulled threat. Whether you're the healer or the DPS that can't wait for the tank to establish aggro, they're gonna fix it. You know, because you see this guy, he's gonna say, "Oh shit," but yet the tank in today's age would think he still has threat because it's still red. Whereas a tank in retail right now, this moment, that would not be red. That would show as a mob that has gotten away from you. You need to either taunt or establish more damage so that you can get back up on that threat meter. Yeah, so I think they'll fix that. I don't think that's going to be something that goes live into the game.
Like, okay, obviously, like, this guy's like chasing down my group. And he's like naturally running away from me like every hunter does, and this guy's an NPC. But the quick little flash is just not useful because it's not showing aggro percentage anywhere on this nameplate. You can also change it to, where's the option? You can also change it to progressive, which has this like fire on top. But the problem with that fire is it's the same color as mobs that you're in combat with.
Mombat. But I mean, that's one of the things that Blizzard has always been great at, right? Hasn't Blizzard always been great with putting something red on top of red, blue on top of blue, brown on top of brown? You know, if there's anybody that should get the #1 award for that, is Blizzard. Hands down, they win. They win with that.
They're both red. It doesn't really, like, it's so hard to tell that the threat is there. So once it turns yellow, that's fine. And then when you have it, it's good too. It's just like it's hard to initially see because the nameplate and the kind of glow is the same color. So I think I think there's improvements to be made there. I don't know what they can do though. I know my current nameplates on live have like a little thing coming out from the side instead of on top here, especially when you start having overlapping nameplates. It's hard to tell, but eventually, like, I don't know, it's just not super great in my opinion. There should be like side options to have like a little like flare for going off of the side instead of on top. I like those generally a little bit more, so maybe Blizzard could
see. But if you do them on the sides, one of the things, if you put them on the sides, then it'll mess up with the whole buff and debuff, I believe. So, you know, orientation is definitely going to be a thing when you come to Plater. I still believe that it should change colors if you lose aggro. You know, just, you know, red, it means you have aggro. You use black or green or something when you don't. But then green means go. I don't know. You get what I'm saying. Turn it yellow.
Potentially add that as an option. So I think there's, again, basically what I'm trying to say is like there's a lot of room for improvement. But let me get onto my final rant about the nameplates that I can't stand. So currently the default option is stacking nameplates. It's going to, not stack, it's going to do the opposite. It's going to overlap. So when you do a big pull, or if I come over here and get into combat, you're going to see that the nameplates are contingent on where they're positioned. So they will overlap. So I can't see the guy who's behind him.
Oh no,
he's dead now. It's they overlap, which is kind of okay when you're in these smaller pulls. But when you pull really big, it's going to be difficult to tell what mob you're targeting, where the mobs are positioned, or not even where they're positioned because they're all stacked, but it's like hard. Then you have to kind of like tab target through. When we change it to enemy units stack, this is where shit goes crazy. And you can already tell the nameplates over here. What is this? This mob is located all the way up here. And look at how much they shift around. As I move even, they just start shifting like crazy.
Oh, wow.
Yep, look at that. Oh my God, I'm gonna get so mad. Okay, this is where the videos always go to shit and I stop recording and I start over. So
I'm pretty sure it does that in retail now if you're using the Blizzard UI. You guys let me know down in the comments. Doesn't it do that maybe not to that extent? Because that is crazy. He's just moving and they're going from side to side, you know, east to west. That's silly.
We're going to make...
But, you know, Blizzard is this indie company, and they're going to try and replace all the weak auras that people have been working on for 15 years. But wait for it.
Get through this without getting too heated. So as you can tell, it's frustrating. Even these mobs over here, they're not even on my screen. They're all the way over here. They're like off the screen, basically. And the nameplates still kind of show up.
Can you guys remember a dungeon that we did that did that? It would actually pick up the mobs that were on another floor downstairs. All right, I'll help you out. Tull de Gore would be one of those places where you would see the nameplates coming up through the floor, and it's somebody being new coming into this game. They're not going to have a flippin' idea. And they're going to end up on a video as a bad player when, quite honestly, it's about the development of the game and not so much the player. They're just trying to understand this new game. And you look at this UI and you see those nameplates there, you're automatically, as a new player, going to think that those are things that you are going to right now interact at, but they're not. They're not even near you.
Up against the edge. And so then when you start to like do a really big pull here, let's see if I can even hold threat. These nameplates are going to jump around like crazy. And so like when you're going to try to click on this one here, I'm like trying to click and then they're just jumping around like crazy. And then you're trying to target like specific kicks.
Yeah, you see,
this is terrible, right? Like,
that's what it did in Eco Aldani today. And it should be tab targeting to the place that you're facing. And that should be the first one that you get to, or second, depending on how many mobs you have between you and the target area. You shouldn't be trying to tab and it going to something to your left when you're not even facing that way.
Like this is objectively bad. I'm not moving at all. The mobs are kind of reshifting. They're obviously leaping away at my allies. The stacked nameplates, or the stacked nameplates are just terrible. And this somehow this guy's stuck. Okay, there he goes. And so yes, you don't want nameplates to necessarily overlap from a gameplay standpoint because you want to be able to accurately target the thing that.
Yeah, but the other option's even worse. You don't want overlapping, but if you go stacking in this current iteration of development, it's even worse.
It's casting, or the priority mob, or swap to a different target for X reason. And so when the nameplates are not, when they're overlapping, it's hard to distinguish which thing you need to target without tabbing through each individual one. But when they're moving around like that, when they're supposed to be like stacked, it's terrible. And so I think a fix, and I don't know if Blizzard can do this, but it's accessible by add-on, so I'd imagine that Blizzard would be able to do this and add this functionality, is you should be able to adjust the horizontal and vertical overlap of the nameplates to whatever degree you want it. If you have the value set at 0%, they're going to be perfectly overlapped. If you set it to like a 60%, they're going to be overlapped by 60%, but they're still going to be able to like, you can still like kind of shift through pretty quickly. Currently, the overlap feels like it's set at like 300%. These don't want to be near each other in the slightest. So when you start to do a big pull like this, this is just like terrible. I can't tell where mobs are standing. I don't know if my CC is going to hit. Like I somehow hit all of these with leg sweep despite the nameplate being 40 yards to my right.
Holy shit, I didn't even notice that.
Like this is awful. This is
wow.
terrible. And so then the only other option is simply come in here, change this to overlap. And yes, this is better, but now like I can't see which mob is which. And on top of that, we come back to the whole name thing. They're all spirit paws. How do I know which is which without clicking on them? If I was able to see just the word gatherer, I would know that it's a gatherer or a tender, that it's a healer basically. And so yeah, there's nameplates are currently a thing that whenever I'm on alpha playing around with them, I am just mad. I am just like frustrated all the time, and it's terrible. So coming kind of full circle, coming back to it, there are a couple of features that I think Blizzard have added that are good. I'm not gonna I don't want to discredit that. I think having the spells and like the spell names glow when they're targeting you, the player, that is a good change. I think adding shared CC into the game and mob debuffs being big is really good. I think there's a lot of where they're missing the mark is coming down to simply like the specific sizes you can set it to. The homogenized scaling I think is pretty terrible. Obviously the preview isn't even really working all that well, and I think there's just a lack of customization in here. And then the biggest
and what I liked about the nameplate also, I'll give it to Blizzard, that they're incorporating the least to like the most harmful to the least harmful spell. So that would be nice if they can fix the rest of these little things. And I think they are little, because if you're going to be tackling it, they better be little.
The biggest blunder right now is the stacking versus non-stacking nameplates. They're either too overlapped or not overlapped at all, and they're just jumping all over your screen like crazy, which is also just a terrible way to play the game, and it makes combat feel terrible. And while the game might feel good and the mechanics might feel good, watching nameplates jump around like crazy like that on your screen is not something that I don't think any player wants to look at that just absolute mess. And then obviously going back to it, I think having a whitelist or a blacklist for specific words, or I know like I use threat plates on live, selecting different name selections, like basically what I've done, it's called a first name last name, where you can disable the first name of a mob. So it would disable Spirit Paw, and it would disable this thing called Keen-Eyed. So it would just be Screecher, it would be Matriarch, and it would be Gatherer. And then you can quickly determine what the mobs are. I've already gone on a little rant at the start of this video about colored nameplates. Yeah. I don't like colored nameplates. I want them all to be fairly the same. The only time they should change is like if you happen to mark it with like...
I don't agree with that. I'll be the first one to say I don't agree with that. If you're going to make something like nameplates customizable, just take off the guardrails, open it all up for creation. Let the player use their imagination to create it as best as they need it to be. It also goes with, it could also go with player accessibility. There are people that are colorblind, so they're going to need certain ones, different textures, different colors, so that they can play the game at a high level.
Square. The square marker now shows up here. It doesn't change the color of the nameplate. That's fine. I don't really care.
See, I don't know that always works either, because there used to be, and I believe Blizzard is still going to have their very own auto marking. So just because you mark something doesn't mean it's going to stay that way, because there's going to be changes with the auto markers.
But I think the naming is more important to me than the color, because I don't want the game to tell me exactly what the mob does, but I want to be able to read and be like, okay, like that's the mob that's mailing me, that's the mob that's trying to heal the mob that's mailing me, and this matriarch is going to enrage, and that's the thing I need to focus on when I'm using defensives. So that information can be figured out in other ways without having the game basically instantly default color code things. So anyways, I don't want to rant on any longer. I'm hoping Blizzard makes improvements over the next couple weeks, or I'm going to feel really bad going into alpha. It's still early. I'm optimistic that they can make appropriate changes.
So we'll get to see how that all goes, man. I mean, I definitely believe that they'll make the changes. I have to believe that. I want to believe that. And we'll leave it at that. I'll put the link for this description down in the comments. If you would like to discuss, please do. I want to hear what is going to be your biggest add-on that you want to make sure is in the game and done correctly. What is it? Let me know. If you enjoy the content, please consider subscribing, hitting the like button, and leaving a comment. All right. Until next time, I'll catch you. Have a good one.